Today we're going to talk about how to handle loneliness after your breakup. Now, before we get to the loneliness talk, the first thing you should be doing if you're watching this channel is figuring out whether or not you should be trying to get your ex back. Because in some situations it's a good idea, and in other situations it's not a good idea. Luckily for you, I've put together a special quiz that's designed to answer this exact question for you. It's called the Ex Recovery Chances Quiz, and it's designed to give you an idea of what your chances are of getting your ex back, so you know if you're wasting your time or not, basically. So if you want to take this quiz, all you have to do is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on the link that you see there. Literally that simple. Okay, let's talk about loneliness. Now, most of the time when I work with clients one-on-one, they want one thing. They want to get their exes back. And this process can make them extremely lonely. So what I would like to do is talk a little bit about that loneliness, because it's a topic really no one else is covering, and it's sort of a universal feeling that we all have after a breakup. Now, I've long been a proponent of this concept of routines, and the fact that when you start dating someone seriously for a long time, the two of you settle into a normal routine. You talk at the same time usually, you spend time together, you start doing the same things, and maybe at first it's really exciting and adventurous and spontaneous, but eventually that routine does settle in. And sometimes we're slave to our routines, and when that routine gets interrupted, when it goes away, we can experience extreme loneliness because all of a sudden our worldview is completely changed. And perhaps one of the biggest mistakes I see women making after a breakup is looking at their ex and putting them on a pedestal. Now, this is especially true if you're trying to get your ex back. You look at them, put them on a pedestal, and start believing that without them, your life is sort of meaningless. And this is a ridiculous thought to have. And in the end, all it does is give them more power and make you more lonely when things don't go your way. So while it may seem odd to start talking about putting an ex on a pedestal in a loneliness video, I think it's an important conversation to have, because I think the key to helping you cope with the loneliness that you're feeling is stop looking at your ex like a demigod. Because your ex isn't a demigod. They're human beings, they make mistakes, and they don't deserve to be on the pedestal that you may be placing them on. So now that we've gotten the pedestal talk out of the way, let's start talking about the real loneliness sort of factors here. Now, if you're not familiar with my concept of the Holy Trinity, I would actually encourage you to stop everything you're doing and hop over our website and read some of my articles on it. But if you want the brief abridged version, here it is. The Holy Trinity refers to three of the biggest areas of your life: health, wealth, and relationships. It's talking about this interesting synergy and connection between the three concepts or categories. In other words, if your relationships area takes a hit, your health and wealth will also take a negative hit as well. But the inverse is also true. If you positively improve your health and wealth, your relationships can also positively improve. Now, what's really interesting is when we're talking about the concept of loneliness, one of the factors that I've seen happen consistently with people who are extremely lonely after a breakup is their Holy Trinity is completely out of whack. Now, what do I mean out of whack? Well, when you go through a breakup, your relationships category definitely is going to take a plunge, but this plunge can make you kind of depressed and kind of lonely, which you bring into the other aspects of your life. So one of the key components to helping you overcome the loneliness that you're feeling is by focusing on everything else except relationships. Now, I know it seems counterproductive or counterintuitive rather, but it does make a difference. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you went through your breakup, you're extremely devastated as a result. So when you decide what you're going to start doing to overcome the loneliness so that you're not sitting at home feeling really bad about yourself and your situation, is go for a run. You go for this run and you start feeling really great about yourself because it's been a long time since you've been on a run. You actually carry this energy into work the next day and you make a big sale. And this big sale actually allows you to meet new people that you never thought you would meet before. Next thing you know, you've looked and you're feeling really great about yourself. These are the kind of connections that we're trying to get you to have. By focusing on all of the other areas of your life outside of relationships, you'll find that you can have all sorts of interesting connections that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Now, in my opinion, the best way to overcome your loneliness after a breakup is by surrounding yourself with individuals who actually understand and know what you're going through. And while this may be hard for you to hear, sometimes your friends and family aren't exactly those people for you. They will give you general advice like, hey, there's other fish in the sea, or why are you still obsessing about this, or why are you still sad about this? They don't understand what it's really like to love someone so much that when they're gone, you experience this extreme loneliness. They don't understand that, and so they give you generalized advice, or worse, they get upset with you when you're still heartbroken months later. Now, this may seem a little weird coming from a guy with a YouTube channel where essentially he's talking to people like you going through dating problems, but I am actually pretty antisocial. In fact, I don't like it unless someone usually forces me into it. So when my wife told me that, hey, maybe it's a really great idea for you to create a group for people who are going through breakups to sort of connect and help each other, I pushed the idea away. In fact, I was so against it that for a year straight of her pestering me, I said, no, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. But eventually, she wore me down. I started a Facebook group for people on ex-boyfriend recovery who are basically going through breakups who bought our products. I wanted to see what the interactions would be like, and what was really interesting is I see people time and time again supporting each other because they understand what the other people are going through. And perhaps what's most interesting is when I actually interview people who've gotten their exes back or who haven't gotten their exes back, all of them tell me consistently that the Facebook group is one of the best things they've ever seen because they're allowed to surround themselves with individuals who actually understand what they're going through. They understand, hey, I'm feeling lonely. Is this normal to feel this lonely? They're able to hear feedback from other people who are maybe in an exact similar situation to them saying, yeah, I felt that way too months ago, but just keep going. We promise it gets better. Now, many of you who this sounds appealing to are probably going to sit there and wonder, well, how do I get access to this Facebook group? And I promise you, I'm not trying to pitch you anything, but we've made it so strict that the regulations to get into this Facebook group is that you have to have bought our program first, because we feel that you need some prerequisites to even go in and sort of talk with the people in the group. But it doesn't just have to be our Facebook group that you can surround yourself with. It can be other groups, and sometimes it can be a trusted friend who understands what you're going through. Not to say that friends and family can't help you, because they can. It's just you want to surround yourself with people who are going to support you rather than tear you down. For someone who's extremely lonely, one of the worst things you can do is surround yourself with people who are going to tear you down or say that's not a great idea. You want to surround yourself with people who will encourage you, but also curb your worst impulses. This is why it's one of the best decisions to enter into a private Facebook group like ours when you're in the midst of a no contact rule, because sometimes when it's important for you not to reach out because you're feeling so lonely, the Facebook group can come and say, hey, don't reach out, just stick through it. We promise you will get through this. And this kind of seamlessly leads me into the next thing I'd like to talk about, and that's this concept of this too shall pass. Throughout my life, there have been multiple sort of serious roadblocks I've encountered. Sometimes it's gotten so bad where I've gotten depressed and lonely. But one thing that I always have in the back of my mind is the phrase, this too shall pass. Because eventually, the hard times that I'm going through will pass. Eventually, the loneliness I'm feeling will pass. I will find someone to spend the rest of my life with, and I did find someone to spend the rest of my life with. But when you're looking at your breakup, it's hard to sort of have this bird's eye view, third person perspective of your situation. It's hard to have this omniscient look at it because you're in it, you're feeling all of the negative emotions that come along with going through a breakup. Depression, loneliness, anger, the grief, the 5 stages of, well, grief. And while I personally believe that you do need to go through your own 5 stages of grief, they don't necessarily have to follow the natural order of things. I think it is important to have a certain perspective about your life. This too shall pass. The feeling of loneliness you're having right now won't last forever. And in fact, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you're constantly telling yourself, hey, this will never end. That's not true. It will end. The one constant in life is change. Never forget that. And sometimes great change doesn't happen suddenly. In fact, it can be so subtle that you don't even realize that it's going on. So while you may be feeling lonely right now, just know that your life is in a constant state of change, and this too shall pass. Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you haven't already, make sure you stop everything you're doing and take that X Recovery Chances quiz, because believe me when I say there's nothing worse than trying to get an ex back in a situation that you really have no business trying to get them back in. So if you want to take the quiz and figure out what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back, simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. It's that simple. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed, please do that right now. Every subscriber matters to me more than you know. Thank you.